Hello everyone, in this video lesson I am going to present the solution of model question 1 from Major English grade 11. Let's begin. यो स्पेसिफिकेसन ग्रेड हो एक्सटर्नल इभ्यालुएसन यसमा हाम्रो फर्स्टमा हिस्टोरिकल सर्वे अफ इङ्ग्लिस ल्याङ्ग्वेज एन्ड लिटरेचरबाट 10 मार्क्सको छ यसमा 2x5 दुईवटा क्वेसन 5 मार्क्सको आउँछ सेकेन्ड क्याटेगोरीमा हाम्रो छ इन्ट्रोडक्सन्स टु ल्याङ्ग्वेज एन्ड लिङ्ग्विस्टिक्स भन्ने यसमा पनि 10 मार्क्स नै हो दुईटा क्वेसन 5 मार्क्सको थर्ड क्याटेगोरीमा हाम्रो प्रोज छ जसमा 30 मार्क्स छुट्याएको छ यसमा फर्स्ट र सेकेन्ड गरेर दुईवटा क्याटेगोरीमा छुट्याइएको छ फर्स्टमा चाहिँ चारवटा सर्ट क्वेसन 4x5 गरेर 20 मार्क्सको छ भनेपछि सेकेन्ड क्याटेगोरीमा हाम्रो नोभेलाबाट एउटा क्वेसन लङ क्वेसन जो 10 मार्क्सको छ फोर्थ क्याटेगोरीमा हाम्रो पोइट्री छ जसमा 20 मार्क्स छुट्याइएको छ यसमा पनि दुईवटा क्याटेगोरीमा छ 1x5 मार्क्स फर्स्टमा छ एक्सप्लेन विथ रेफरेन्स टु द कन्टेक्स्ट भनेर यसमा पोइमको कुनै लाइन दिन्छ र त्यसलाई एक्सप्लेन गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ त्यसपछि दोस्रो क्याटेगोरीमा छ 5 मार्क्सको लागि एउटा क्वेसन त्यसपछि छ थर्ड टेक्स्ट बेस्ड लङ क्वेसन आन्सर भनेर एउटा लङ क्वेसन 10 मार्क्सको सोधिन्छ यो पोइट्री क्याटेगोरीबाट र हाम्रो लास्ट फिफ्थ क्याटेगोरीमा चाहिँ हाम्रो ड्रामा छ जो 5 मार्क्सको यसमा हाम्रो ड्रामाबाट एउटा क्वेसन 1x5 मार्क्सको भनेर सोधिन्छ र यसमा हाम्रो टोटल नम्बरहरूको सर्ट क्वेसन टोटल नम्बर अफ सर्ट क्वेसन 11वटा र टोटल नम्बर अफ लङ क्वेसन भनेर दुईवटा छ 11x5 55 मार्क्स र दुईवटा लङ क्वेसन 20 मार्क्स गरेर 75 मार्क्सको आउँछ यसमा 25 मार्क्स हाम्रो प्र्याक्टिकल भनेर छुट्याइएको छ
Model question 1 full marks 75 pass marks 30 time 3 hours. Attempt all the questions. 1. What is the contribution of Geoffrey Chaucer in Middle English literature? Discuss. 5. Geoffrey Chaucer was one of the greatest writers of his time. He has written many stories which are loved by many. He is the writer of the stories like the Canterbury Tales, The Legend of a Good Woman, Troilus and Chryside. The Canterbury Tales is a poem which is written as a conversation between different pilgrims who were traveling to Canterbury Church. The pilgrims include a friar, monk, soldier, nurse, priest, and many more. The people of the travel aren't as they seem. The monk scams people. The farmer is a good man. Friar loves to hunt and monk loves to eat meat. Troilus and Chryside is a tragedy about Troilus who falls in love with an unfaithful woman named Chryside. Chryside later leaves him for another man and Troilus goes crazy. He starts killing people and later was killed by another man in battlefield. The Canterbury Tales was supposed to be a 12-part poem but Chaucer died before he could complete it.
Model question 1. Attempt all the questions भनेर यो फर्स्टमा दिएको छ क्वेसन नम्बर 1 मा छ व्हाट इज द कन्ट्रिब्युसन अफ जियोफ्री चाउसर इन मिडल इंग्लिश लिटरेचर डिस्कस भनेर दिएको छ यो 5 मार्क्सको लागि सर्ट क्वेसन हो यसमा हामीले जियोफ्री चाउसर मिडल इङ्ग्लिस लिटरेचरका महान हस्ती हुन् उनले लेखेका द क्यान्टरबरी टेल्स द लेजेन्ड अफ अ गुड वुमन ट्रोइलस एन्ड क्रिसाइड भन्ने जो बुकहरू उनले लेखे यिनी फेमस राइटर हुन् यो मिडल इङ्ग्लिस लिटरेचरका भनेर हामीले यिनको बारेमा चाहिँ यो क्वेसनमा चर्चा गर्नुपर्छ
Or, what are the features of the Romantic period? Explain briefly. Romanticism is a literary movement that came as the reaction to the 18th century, the Age of Reason. This era's writers were against established rules, reason, and logic. They thought that the poems should be written in simple language. The pioneers of the Romantic era are William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge after publishing their lyrical ballads in 1798, which brought radical change in the poetry. The features of the Romantic period are as follows. A. Use of simple language. B. Love of nature. C. High level of emotion and imagination. D. Sense of nationalism. E. Revolt against realism. F. Spontaneity. The main feature of the Romantic period is simplicity in writing. That's why they thought the poems should be written in simple language. Romantic writers returned to nature and enjoyed nature beauty in their writing. This is the period of high level of emotion and imagination. Romanticism emerged a feeling of nationalism as they poured the love for the nation in their verse and high regard for national culture. The Age of Reason or 18th century literature was thought as literature of aristocratic. Romanticism is a revolt against the established norms of realism and beginning of literature of the public. As the Romanticism came against the reaction of Age of Reason, they focused on the message more than on structure. Other features of the Romantic period are influence of subjective trend, which reflects that the writers give much attention towards writing for pleasure than writing with purpose. It was the age of romantic enthusiasm, where writers used high level of imagination, romantic feeling, sense of love and enjoyment in their writings. The age of poetry, definitely it is one of the fertile eras for the writers to be sharpened their skill in the field of poetry, where great poets like William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge and others get opportunity to emerge.
वानको अर्को क्वेसनमा वाट आर द फिचर्स अफ रोमान्टिक पिरियड एक्सप्लेन ब्रिफली भन्ने दिएको छ। अब यो रोमान्टिक पिरियड 18th सेन्चुरीको अन्तपछि 19th सेन्चुरीको सुरुवात सँगसँगै सुरुवात भएको यो रोमान्टिक पिरियड हो। अब यो रोमान्टिक पिरियडमा द एज अफ रिजनका जो स्ट्रिक्ट रुल रेगुलेसन्सहरू हैन, प्याटर्नहरू, लोजिकहरू, रिजन हुनुपर्छ, अरिस्टोक्रेटिक हैन, धनी सम्पन्न वर्गको विषयमा मात्रै साहित्य हुनुपर्छ भन्ने हरेक कुराहरूलाई तोडेर जो सर्वसाधारणको लागि हैन प्रकृतिमा रमाउने खालको इमेजिनेसन पनि युज गर्न सकिने हैन राष्ट्रियताको भावना र कन्टिन्युटी धारा प्रवाह रूपमा लेखिने कविताका फर्मेटहरू पनि यो अवधिमा आए। रोमान्टिक पिरियडमा जुन खालका कविताहरू देखिए ती चाहिँ सर्वसाधारणहरूले अति नै मन पराए भन्ने कुराहरूको विषयमा हामीले यो क्वेशनमा आन्सर लेख्नुपर्छ।
2. Write short notes on any one of the following 5. A. Romeo and Juliet. It is a tragic love story between two teenage lovers, Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet. Their families are enemies, but they fall in love at their first meeting and decide to marry. With the help of Juliet's nurse, the women arrange for the couple to marry. But the street fight leads to the death of Juliet's own cousin by Romeo, for which Romeo is banished. In a desperate endeavor to be reunited with Romeo, Juliet follows the friar's plot and fakes her own death. The message fails to reach Romeo in time, and believing Juliet's death real, he takes his life in front of her tomb, swallowing poison. Juliet wakes and finds Romeo's corpse beside her and stabs herself to death. The grieving families agree to end their dispute at the end.
Question number 2. Write short notes on any one of the following भनेर 5 मार्क्सको छ यो यसमा एउटा क्वेशन या एउटा दुईटा तीनवटासम्म अर क्वेशनमा पनि आउन सक्छ। फर्स्टमा छ रोमियो एन्ड जुलियट। अब यो रोमियो एन्ड जुलियट हाम्रो शेक्सपियरले लेखेको हुन्। यसमा रोमियो र जुलियट दुईजना टिनेजर्सहरूको प्रेम कथाको विषयमा लेखेको छ र यसमा बाई मिस्टेकली चाहिँ यो जुलियटको नर्सले जो धाइआमा जस्तो हुन्छन् उनले चाहिँ गलत तरिकाले चाहिँ उनको मृत्युको खबर चाहिँ एउटा मेडिसिन जो केही समयको लागि मरेको जस्तै बनाउने हुन्छ, तर त्यो भएपछि यो रोमियो र जुलियटको मिलनको लागि उनले गरेकी हुन्छन्। तर अब यो जुलियटको मृत्यु भयो भन्ने खबर रोमियोसँग हैन सही तरिकाले नपुगेर मृत्यु भयो मरिन भन्ने मात्रै गएपछि रोमियोले पनि उनको हैन चिहानमा आएर आफ्नो आत्महत्या गरिदिन्छन् जहर खाएर। त्यसपछि जब यो जुलियटलाई होस आउँछ त्यसपछि चाहिँ जुलियटले पनि ऊ मरेको देखेपछि आफैलाई हैन चक्कु घोपेर आफ्नो सुसाइड गर्छिन्। यो ट्रेजेडिक लभ स्टोरीको बारेमा छ। यो कुराहरु हामीले यो सर्ट नोटमा लेख्नुपर्छ।
B. Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe was a great dramatist of Elizabethan period, though he lived for a very short age. He wrote some amazing dramas that made him very famous. He mostly wrote in powerful blank verse and most of his work had violence on it. Some of his famous works are Tamburlaine the Great, The Jew of Malta and Dr. Faustus. In his story Tamburlaine the Great, Tamburlaine is a shepherd and robber who grows into power by killing various kings of different kingdoms. He captures the king of Turkey and locks him in a cage. She takes the king from place to place like a wild animal. Other kings are forced to pull Tamburlaine's carriage, and whoever feels tired is hanged and killed. In the story Jew of Malta, a rich Jew of Malta refuses to pay taxes to the governor of Malta, which makes the governor take all of his money away. Left with nothing, the Jew swore to get revenge with the opponent who seized everything from him. Later, when the Turks tried to invade Malta, he helps the Turks. As a reward, the Turkish armies make him the king, governor of Malta. In order to gain more power, he then decides to kill the Turkish army, but before he carries out his plan, he is killed.
बी क्रिस्टोफर मार्लो भनेर सर्ट क्वेसन छ। यो क्रिस्टोफर मार्लोको बारेमा यिनी इलिजाबेथन पिरियडका ग्रेट ड्रामाटिस्ट हुन्। यिनी धेरै लामो समय बाँचेनन् हैन, तर पनि यिनको ओरिजिनालिटीलाई चाहिँ शेक्सपियरले पनि एकदमै फलो गरेको हामीले देख्छौँ। लगभग 25-26 वर्षमै हैन स्टार्टिङ गरेको 2-4 वटै आर्टिकलबाट जब प्रसिद्ध पाए, त्यसपछि चाहिँ यिनको मृत्यु भयो हैन। रहस्यमय मृत्यु, यो हत्या भएको हो यिनको। यो हत्यामा चाहिँ हाम्रो शेक्सपियरको पनि हात छ भनेर भनिन्छ। अब यी कुराहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले क्रिस्टोफर मार्लोको बारेमा, अब यो टम्बरलन द ग्रेट, द ज्यूज अफ माल्टा, डक्टर फस्टस, यी कुराहरूको बारेमा यिनले लेखेको लेखहरू पनि हामीले समावेश गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ।
See Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus is a story of a man named Faustus who makes a deal with the devil for riches and power. He sells his soul to the devil in order to make the devil his servant for 24 years. Dr. Faustus, a great scholar who wishes to have infinite knowledge. He has studied theology, philosophy, medicine, and law, and wishes to study magic. He sells his soul to the devil Mephistopheles to gain more power and knowledge in the condition that the devil has to serve him for 24 years and provide him with what he wants. Faustus enjoys his life, but as the 24-year come to a stop, his last few hours are very painful. He is scared to lose his life, but the devil drags his soul to hell. The end of this play is very tragic.
क्वेसन नम्बर सी, डक्टर फस्टस। यो डक्टर फस्टसमा क्रिस्टोफर मार्लोले लेखेको ओरिजिनल स्टोरीहरूमा बेस भएको मध्येको एउटा हो। अब यो डक्टर फस्टस भन्ने व्यक्ति चाहिँ एकदमै बढी हैन ज्ञान, त्यसपछि धन सम्पत्तिको लोभले गर्दाखेरि एउटा डेभिलसँग सहमति गर्न पुग्छन् हैन। 24 वर्षसम्म आफूले भनेको उसले मान्ने, उसले सबै कुराहरू पूरा गरिदिने उनको इच्छाहरू, र 24 वर्षपछि चाहिँ आफ्नो चाहिँ ज्यान दिने हैन, त्यो शर्तमा चाहिँ त्यो सहमति गर्छन्। त्यसपछि 24 वर्षसम्म चाहिँ रमाइलै हुन्छ हैन सबै कुराहरू, तर जब अन्तिम दिन आउँछ हैन, उनी मर्न चाहँदैनन्, तर उनीले नचाहँदै पनि त्यो शैतानले उनको आत्मालाई हैन झिकेर चाहिँ लैजान्छ भन्ने एउटा यो ट्र्याजिक ड्रामा हो। यो यी कुराहरू यो सर्ट नोटमा चाहिँ समावेश गर्नुपर्छ हामीले।
3. Answer any two of the following. 2 times 5 equals 10. A. Language is arbitrary vocal system of human communication. Explain. Language is a voluntary vocal system of human communication. Language is a human-made system that has arbitrariness. The words that we use in different language to describe different things are not related to the things at all. When we say table, we imagine table in our head, but the structure of table has nothing to do with the word table. But due to arbitrariness, we link the two things together and understand. In similar manner, the word dog has many different variations such as kukur in Nepali, kutta in Hindi. These words are not related to each other, nor can we see or understand a dog through it, but the image of a dog pops in our head every time we say it. Language also needs to be vocal as human beings and different animals speak it. In order for language to be spoken, the air inside our lungs comes out through our mouth, and our tongue as well as teeth along with lips work together to form words.
क्वेसन नम्बर 3, एन्सर एनी टू अफ द फलोइङ्स भन्ने छ। दुईवटा क्वेसन गर्नुपर्ने हामीलाई सर्ट क्वेसन 5 मार्क्सको। अब यो ल्याङ्ग्वेज एन्ड लिङ्ग्विस्टिक्स भन्ने क्याटेगोरी अन्तर्गतको क्वेसनहरू हो। यसमा ल्याङ्ग्वेज इज अर्बिट्रेरी भोकल सिस्टम अफ ह्युमन कम्युनिकेसन एक्सप्लेन भनेर दिएको छ। अब यो ल्याङ्ग्वेज इज अर्बिट्रेरी भोकल सिस्टम अफ ह्युमन कम्युनिकेसन भनेर जो कुराहरू छ, यसलाई हामीले एक्सप्लेन गर्दाखेरि भोकल सिस्टम किन हो हैन, मान्छेले बाहेक अरूले बोलेको भाषा किन हुँदैन, ल्याङ्ग्वेज चाहिँ किन हुँदैन भन्ने कुराहरू एक्सप्लेन गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र यो ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा अर्बिट्रेरीनेस जो हुन्छ यो दिएको कुनै वर्डको र त्यसको अर्थ स्पेलिङ र अर्थ चाहिँ कुनै समानता हुँदैन जस्तो यहाँ इक्जाम्पलमा कुकुर भनेको छ नेपालीमा अब यो कुकुरको शब्द हेरेर हामीले कुकुर यस्तो हुन्छ भनेर त्यो दुईटालाई हामीले आफै म्याच गराउनु पर्ने हुन्छ यसको कुनै रिजन हुँदैन हैन ती कुराहरू चाहिँ हामीले यो अर्बिट्रेरीनेसमा राख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ यो कुराहरू चाहिँ आउनु पर्यो यो क्वेशनमा
B. What are the basic features of human language? Describe briefly, as we know that language is a voluntary vocal system of human communication. Here voluntary refers to the desire to speak and vocal refers oral system, which means a well-organized code and system refers to the phonological, grammatical and semantic systems of the language. The main features of human language are as follows. D. Human entity. B. Voluntary. C. Vocal. D. System. E. Arbitrariness. F. Interchangeability. G. Cultural transmission. Voluntary is a desire to speak and vocal means oral system, which means a well-organized code and system is the phonological, grammatical and semantic systems of the language. It is the entity of human only as they have vocal system which does not possess by the animal, though they could communicate with their races. Arbitrariness deals with the interrelationship of the linguistic form and its meaning. Interchangeability is one of the key features of human communication which relates the understanding of the message in language communication. The process whereby a language is passed from one generation to the next is described as cultural transmission.
B. What are the basic features of human language? Describe briefly भनेर दिएको छ अब यसमा बेसिक फिचर अफ ह्युमन ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा अब ल्याङ्ग्वेज हुनको लागि मान्छेले नै हैन भोकल सिस्टमबाट नै बोलेको हुनुपर्छ अब यो मान्छे मात्रैको सम्पत्ति हो भाषा भन्ने कुरा हैन अरु जनावरले बोलेको अरूहरूले गरेको कम्युनिकेसनलाई चाहिँ ल्याङ्ग्वेज भनिदैन अब यो भलन्टरी हुन्छ अब मान्छेले चाहेको बेलामा बोलेको मात्रै भाषा हो हैन कुनै संवेगमा आएर हैन हामीले त्यो उच्चारण हुने त्यो ऐया भन्ने जस्तो शब्दहरू जो हुन्छ आहा भन्ने अब यसलाई चाहिँ भाषाको रूपमा त्यति लिँदैन हैन त्यो कुराहरू छ भोकल सिस्टममा हाम्रो अब लङ्सबाट हैन बाहिर जब सास निस्किन्छ त्यो प्रक्रिया जो प्रक्रिया हुन्छ यो भोकल सिस्टम पनि पार गरेको हुनुपर्छ ल्याङ्ग्वेज हुनको लागि सिस्टम हुनु पर्यो ग्रामेटिकल फोनोलोजिकल सिमेन्टिक सिन्ट्याक्स हैन यो कुराहरू पनि पढ्नु पर्यो त्यसपछि छ अर्बिट्रेरीनेस हैन भाषामा चाहिँ अर्बिट्रेरीनेस पनि हुन्छ कुनै शब्दको स्पेलिङहरू हेरेर अक्षरहरू हेरेर त्यसको अर्थ हामीले लगाउन सक्दैनौं त्यो कुराहरू हामीले घोक्नै पर्छ हैन बुझ्नै पर्छ त्यो छुट्टै त्यो शब्द हेर्न बित्तिकै यसको यो हो भनेर कुनै मेल तालमेल हुँदैन हैन त्यस्तो हुन्छ यो अर्बिट्रेरीनेस इन्टरचेन्जेबिलिटी भन्ने छ एउटा मान्छेसँग भएको कुराकानी हामीले कुनै वर्षपछि केही वर्षपछि कुनै अर्कै मान्छेलाई फेरि त्यो कुराहरू भन्न सक्छौं हैन बुझाउन सक्छौं त्यसलाई चाहिँ इन्टरचेन्जेबिलिटी भन्छ त्यसपछि छ जी नम्बरमा कल्चरल ट्रान्समिसन भन्ने छ अब यो भाषा र संस्कृति एक अर्कासँग छुटाउन सकिदैन हैन एउटा पुस्ताबाट अर्को पुस्तामा चाहिँ यो भाषाहरू ट्रान्समिसन फैलिदै जान्छ भन्ने कुराहरू छ यो कुराहरू हामीले यसमा यो बेसिक फिचर्स अफ ह्युमन ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा चाहिँ एक्सप्लेन गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ 5 मार्क्सको क्वेशन हो यसलाई जति सक्यो सर्ट गराउँदा नै राम्रो हुन्छ
C. Clarify the basic differences between animal communication and human language. Language can be defined as the means of communication through which people exchange the information they have. When information is transmitted orally, it is known as oral language, and when information is transmitted through writing, it is known as written language. Language is a very important part of human life. It is very important to learn language as it is a tool of socialization as well. S and human communication. S and animal communication. 1. It is acquired. 1. It is inherited. 2. It has grammar. 2. It does not have grammar. 3. It is recurring. 3. It is repetitive. 4. It is narrative and descriptive. 4. It is non-narrative and non-descriptive. 5. It is an open system. 5. It is a closed system. 6. It has a wide range of vocabulary. 6. It has limited range of vocabulary. 7. It is flexible and full of value. 7. It is not flexible.
C. Clarify the basic difference between animal communication and human language भन्ने छ यसमा। अब यो क्वेसनमा हामीले एनिमलको कसरी कम्युनिकेसन गर्छन् र मान्छेको भाषाको बीचमा कति भिन्नता हुन्छ भन्ने कुराहरू यो क्वेसनमा हामीले एक्सप्लेन गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। अब ह्युमन कम्युनिकेसनमा चाहिँ अब यो ग्रामर हुन्छ हैन, एनिमल कम्युनिकेसनमा त्यो ग्रामरहरू हुँदैन। अब यो ओपन क्लास हो ह्युमन कम्युनिकेसन भनेको, र ह्युमन कम्युनिकेसन र एनिमल कम्युनिकेसन भनेको क्लोज सिस्टम हो। यसमा तिनीहरूले कुनै नयाँ शब्दहरू बनाएर त्यो गर्न सक्दैनन्। जस्तो हाम्रो मान्छेहरूको भाषामा नयाँ नयाँ शब्दहरू थपिराख्छन् हैन, तर मौरीलाई कम्युनिकेसन गर्नु पर्यो भनेपछि पहिला जसरी मौरी कति डिस्टेन्समा तिनीहरूको खाना छ भन्ने कुराहरू घुमेर हैन आफ्नो सर्कलमा घुमेर तिनीहरूले चाहिँ डाइरेक्सन दिन्छन् भन्ने कुराहरू हामीले पढ्न पाउँछौँ। अब त्यो कुराहरू बाहेक कुनै नयाँ चेन्ज हुँदैन हैन। तर मान्छेहरूमा यो फ्लेक्सिबल हुने, वाइड रेन्ज अफ भोक्याबुलरी हुने, अब न्यारेटिभ एन्ड डिस्क्रिप्टिभ हुने, रिकरिङ हुने हैन, अक्वायर्ड हुने। अब यो भाषा चाहिँ हामीले सिक्न पनि सक्छौँ, तर एनिमल कम्युनिकेसनले नयाँ भाषा सिक्दैन। अब यता कतामा कुनै प्यारोटहरू हैन, मैना चराहरू, यस्ता चराहरूले केही शब्द बोल्यो भने त्यो सीमित शब्दहरू हुन्छ, त्यो ट्रेन गरेको हो हैन। त्यस्ता कुराहरू बाहेक सामान्यतया अपवाद बाहेक अरू सामान्य कुराहरू चाहिँ वंशानुगत हुन्छ एनिमल कम्युनिकेसनहरू। तर मान्छेले चाहिँ भाषाहरू सिक्छ। हामीले आफ्नो मातृभाषा मात्रै नभएर संसारभरिकै भाषाहरू पनि सिक्न सक्छौँ हैन। अब त्यो टोनहरूमा चाहिँ केही तलमाथि होला, तर कम्युनिकेसन चाहिँ गर्न सकिने खालको सिक्न सक्छौँ। त्यो कुराहरू चाहिँ हामीले यसमा एड गर्नुपर्छ।
4. Answer any 4 of the following questions. 4 times 5 equals 20. A. Sketch the character of Prometheus. Prometheus was a Titan god who had fought in the war from the side of Zeus. Prometheus was a very wise and great Titan god who was smarter and wiser than most of the gods. He had the power to foresee the future, through which he had also seen the result of the war. Prometheus, with the help of Athena, created human beings whom he loved a lot. He even tricked Zeus in order to help the human beings. But his plan failed as the Zeus took fire back from people and heartbroken by people's pain. He decided to steal fire from Mount Olympus and give it back to people. With the help of Athena, he stole the fire and gave it back to people. Angry Zeus then punished him to be bound on a rock and be tortured. Zeus told Prometheus to name his helper, but being a loyal and nice man, Prometheus didn't tell him Athena's name. Later, when Zeus set the condition of an immortal giving his life for him, Prometheus just thought that it wouldn't be possible as he was no one. This just shows that Prometheus was extremely humble as well. Prometheus was a great Titan god who went through so much suffering due to his love for human beings.
4. Answer any 4 of the following questions. 4 into 5 equals to 20. अब यसमा 4 वटा सर्ट क्वेसन हाम्रो 5 मार्क्सको लागि हाम्रो बुकको प्रो सेक्सनबाट सोधिने स्टोरी र एसे अन्तर्गतका क्वेसनहरू हुन् यिनीहरू। अब यसमा हामीलाई फिक्सन र नन फिक्सन दुवैमा बराबर क्वेसन आउँछ, दुईटा फिक्सन र दुईटा नन फिक्सन भन्नेबाट। ए. स्केच द क्यारेक्टर अफ प्रोमेथियस। अब यो प्रोमेथियसको हामीले चरित्र चित्रण गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। प्रोमेथियस को हुन्, यो कथामा चाहिँ प्रोमेथियसको भूमिका कस्तो छ, उनले के कामहरू गरेको छन्, गल्तीहरू के गरे हैन, यिनी राम्रो क्यारेक्टर हुन् या नराम्रो क्यारेक्टर कस्तो हुन्, तिनको बारेमा हामीले लेख्नुपर्छ। अब यो प्रोमेथियस हाम्रो यो पार्टमा चाहिँ हाम्रो मेन क्यारेक्टर हिरोको रूपमा छन् हैन, राम्रो कामहरू गरेको छन्। अब उनले नै मान्छेहरूको लागि चाहिँ आगो चोरेर हैन पृथ्वीमा ल्याइदिएको भन्ने कुराहरू यो पौराणिक कथासँग बेसिस छ, त्यो कुराहरू हामीले यसमा जोड्नुपर्छ।
B. Do you think Zeus is a just king? Give reasons from the story. No, I don't think that Zeus is a just king. A just king is someone who has a great sense of wisdom and courageous and does great things for his or her citizen. A just king also has a great sense of justice. Zeus is said to be a great leader overall, but while looking at the story, he isn't a good person or a just king. Zeus punishes Prometheus for tricking him into choosing the bad pile of meat indirectly by taking the fire away human. Zeus decides to punish the poor and helpless citizen, human, instead of helping them. Later, when Prometheus steals the fire and gives it back to the people, he bounds Prometheus to a rock in Mount Caucasus and making a vulture eat his liver every day. As we know that he was an immortal, he couldn't die but suffers the pain every day. Later, when people sympathize with Prometheus instead of letting him go, Zeus put forth 2 conditions that need to be fulfilled. The conditions are very hard to fulfill as well. So, when the situation takes turn and the conditions are fulfilled, Zeus only then allows Prometheus back to Mount Olympus, the home of God. So, from the above reasons, we can say that Zeus is not a just king and is rather a bit selfish and egotistical.
B. Do you think Zeus is just a king? Give reasons for the story भन्ने छ. प्रोमेथियस भन्ने पार्टको क्वेसन हो. ज्यूस भन्ने एकजना भगवानहरूको राजा हुन् हैन. अब जस्ट इज अ जस्ट किङ भन्ने छ. यसमा उनी राजा हुन् त भनेर क्वेसन सोधेको छ. अब ज्यूस एकजना हैन भगवानहरूको लिडरको रूपमा प्रतिनिधित्व गर्ने व्यक्ति चाहिँ हुन्. तर राजा हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ राजाले आफ्नो जनताको लागि चाहिँ हरेक त्यागहरू गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. महान मान्छे हुनुपर्छ हैन. त्यो महानता चाहिँ ज्यूसमा आउँदैन किनभने प्रोमेथियसलाई दुःख दिनेमा यिनी पनि मेन पर्छन् हैन. अब यी कुराहरूले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ यिनको साथ प्रोमेथियसले दिँदैनन्. तर त्यसकारणले गर्दाखेरि यिनी ज्यूस किङ भन्दा पनि हैन एउटा सेल्फिस लिडरको रूपमा प्रतिबिम्बित गरिएको छ स्टोरीमा. त्यसकारणले यिनी चाहिँ राजा हुन सक्दैनन् भन्ने तरिकाले यसको आन्सर दिन सकिन्छ.
C. The hermit said to the king, "You have already been answered. Explain how the questions have been answered." 3 questions in the story. 3 question. The king was tired from Hermit's arrogant behavior at the end, but Hermit explained him how he answered his own question himself. Hermit told the king that if he hadn't shown pity on the hermit's weakness yesterday and had not dug that bed for him, and had gone his way, that man would have attacked him and he would have repented of not having stayed with him. So the most important time was when the king was digging the beds. And Hermit was the most important man, and to do Hermit good was the king's most important business. Afterward, when the man run to them, the most important time was when the king was attending to him. For the king, if he didn't bind up his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with him. So he was the most important man, and what the king did for him was the most important business. This is how Hermit was trying to make the king know about.
See, the hermit said to the king, "You have already been answered. Explain how the questions have been answered." यो 3 क्वेसन्स भन्ने स्टोरीबाट सोधिएको हो. यसमा राजाले चाहिँ 3 वटा क्वेसन जो सबैसँग सोधेर सन्तुष्ट हुन सक्दैनन्. त्यसपछि यो हर्मिट एकजना साधुसँग गएर सोध्छन् हैन. त्यो साधुले चाहिँ उनलाई खेतबारी पनि खन्नमा सहयोग आफै गर्छन्. तर खेतबारी त्यति सहयोग गरिदिँदाखेरि पनि कुनै आन्सर भन्दिनन् हैन. रातभरि एउटा घाइते मान्छेको सेवा गर्छन् र भोलि बिहान हैन उठेर हेरिसकेपछि अब लास्टमा तपाईले मलाई आन्सर दिने कि नदिने भनेर हैन जोकिएर सोधेपछि चाहिँ तिमीले आन्सर आफै दिइसकेछौ भनेर तिनलाई सम्झाउँछन् हैन. र त्यो राजाले गरेको कामहरू विशेष गरेर उनलाई सहयोग गरेको त्यहाँ चाहिँ रुकेको त्यो समय हैन र उनलाई सहयोग गरेको जस्तो यसमा 3 वटा काम छ. महत्त्वपूर्ण समय, महत्त्वपूर्ण व्यक्ति र महत्त्वपूर्ण काम भन्ने कुराहरू छ यसमा. यो 3 वटा प्रश्नको चाहिँ आन्सर उनले आफैले हैन दिएको भन्ने कुराहरू चाहिँ साधुले सम्झाएको हुन्. यो 3 क्वेसनमा जो यु हेभ अलरेडी बीन आन्सर्ड भनेर साधुले राजालाई भनेको हुन्छन्. यसमा 3 वटा क्वेसन राजाले सोधेको हुन्छन्. त्यो 3 वटा क्वेसनको आन्सर चाहिँ साधुले आफूले नभनेर राजाले आफैले गरेको भनेर प्रुभ गरेको छन् यो क्वेसनमा. यो क्वेसनको आन्सर पनि हामीले त्यसरी नै दिनुपर्छ.
D. How did the islanders react upon Columbus's arrival? Discuss. Christopher Columbus was a great voyager and a salesman who was helped by the great king and queen of Spain themselves to travel the world and found different places. He was also discovered America. While traveling, Columbus came to find an island which he named Hispaniola. Hispaniola was a marvel. It had beautiful scenery and beautiful rivers as well as landscapes. The people of the island were shy and hesitant as they ran away as soon as they saved the ship and Christopher's men. The people of the island only after a few days came and talked to the Columbus and his men. They brought different metal and brass glass in order to exchange it with clothes and leather. The people there did believe in God or a religion, but believed that heaven exists and along with divine power. The people there believed that Christopher and his men were also the people from heaven, so they invited them over and provided them food. The people of the island are told to be very shy and naive. The island was filled with gold, yet they didn't care, which shows that they weren't aware of the world outside their island.
Number D, how did the islanders react upon Columbus arrive? Discuss भन्दैछ. यो कोलम्बसको एसेबाट हो. यो एसेमा चाहिँ यो आइल्यान्ड्सहरु जब कोलम्बसहरु तिनीहरुको आइल्यान्डमा पुग्छन् त्यो आइल्यान्डहरुले कसरी रियाक्ट गर्छन् भनेर क्वेशन सोधिएको छ. अब यो आइल्यान्डरहरुले यिनीहरुलाई चाहिँ स्वर्गबाट आएको मान्छेहरु भनेर डराएर धेरै दिनसम्म बाहिर निस्किनन् हैन. त्यसपछि केही दिनपछि चाहिँ बाहिर निस्केर तिनीहरुको राम्रोसँग स्वागत, खानपिन, सेवा सत्कार गरेको छन्. त्यो कुराहरु चाहिँ यो क्वेशनमा लेख्नु पर्छ.
E. What was the man-woman relationship like on the islands when Columbus landed there? Christopher Columbus went on a voyage that was sponsored by the King and Queen of Spain, as he was a very good sailor and a captain. When he came across an island during his voyage, he named it Hispaniola. The people of Hispaniola were shy and very naive. They believed that Christopher and his men were people from the heaven who had come to visit them. The male and female relation of the island was quite similar to the present days. The marriage that happened took place was monogamy, but the king and the rich or powerful had the provision of keeping nearly 20 wives. And even though the marriage was between a man and a woman, the sex wasn't limited. The female of the place were generally responsible of farming and taking care of the children, whereas the men plowed the farm and took care of their family. The men were generally seen as the helper in reproduction only and didn't really bear much responsibility.
E. What was the man-woman relationship like on the islands when Columbus landed there? जब कोलम्बस त्यो टापुमा पुग्छन् त्यसपछि त्यहाँको मान्छेहरुको व्यवहार देख्छन्. त्यहाँ चाहिँ महिला र पुरुषहरुको सम्बन्ध आजभोलिको जस्तै विवाह हुने, तर शक्तिशाली अथवा राजाहरु छन् भनेपछि 20 वटा सम्म श्रीमती राख्न सक्ने र त्यो कुराहरु तिनीहरुको फिजिकल रिलेसन कस्तो हुन्छ हैन, बच्चाबच्चीको रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी कसको धेरै हुने, ती कुराहरुको बारेमा चाहिँ वर्णन गरेको छन्. त्यो कुराहरु चाहिँ हामीले यो क्वेशनमा लेख्नु पर्यो आन्सरको रूपमा.
5. Show your acquaintance with the novella of Mice and Men. 10. Two migrant workers, George and Lenny, are good friends. It becomes clear that Lenny has an intellectual disability and is deeply devoted to George and dependent upon him for protection and guidance. George finds that Lenny, who loves petting soft things but often accidentally kills them, has been carrying and stroking a dead mouse. George angrily throws it away, fearing that Lenny might catch a disease from the dead animal. He and Lenny share a dream of buying their own piece of land, farming it, and, much to Lenny's delight, keeping rabbits. The next day, the men report to the nearby ranch. George, fearing how the boss will react to Lenny, insists that he'll do all the talking. He lies, explaining that they traveled together because they are cousins and that a horse kicked Lenny in the head when he was a child. They're hired. The boss's mean-spirited son, Curly, is newly married, possessive of his flirtatious wife, and full of jealous suspicion. Once George and Lenny are alone in the bunkhouse, Curly's wife appears and flirts with them. Lenny thinks she is pretty, but George, sensing the trouble that could come from tangling with this woman and her husband, warns Lenny to stay away from her. Carlson, another ranch hand, suggests that since Slim's dog has just given birth, they should offer a puppy to Candy and shoot Candy's old dog. The next day, George reveals that Lenny is not his cousins but have been friends since childhood. He tells how Lenny has often gotten them into trouble. For instance, they were forced to flee their last job because Lenny tried to touch a woman's dress and was accused of rape. Slim agrees to give Lenny one of his puppies, and Carlson continues to ask Candy to kill his old dog. And then Carlson killed the dog painlessly. Candy overhears George and Lenny discussing their plans to buy land, and offers his life savings if they will let him live there too. The three make a pact to let no one else know of their plan. Slim returns in the bunkhouse scolding Curly for his suspicions pointlessly. Curly, searching for an easy target for his anger, finds Lenny and picks a fight with him. Lenny crushes Curly's hand in the altercation. The next day, Lenny accidentally kills his puppy in the barn. Curly's wife enters and consoles him. She admits that life with Curly is a disappointment and wishes that she had followed her dream of becoming a movie star. Lenny tells her that he loves petting soft things, and she offers to let him feel her hair. When he grabs too tightly, she cries out. In his attempt to silence her, he accidentally breaks her neck. Lenny flees back to a pool of the Salinas River that George had designated as a meeting place should either of them get into trouble. There George shoots his friend in the back of the head. When the other men arrive, George lets them believe that Lenny had the gun and while snatching the gun from him accidentally shot to him. Only Slim understands what has really happened, that George has killed his friend out of mercy. Slim consolingly leads him away, and the other men, completely puzzled, watch them leave.
5. Show your acquaintance with the novella of Mice and Men भनेको छ। यो Mice and Men मा चाहिँ के कुराहरू तिमीहरूले बुझ्यौ हैन, त्यो कुराहरू लेख्नु छ। यसमा यो भनेको लगभग समरी हो। यसमा Mice and Men मा चाहिँ हाम्रो जर्ज र लेनी दुईवटा साथीहरू हुन्छन्, जसमा जर्ज चाहिँ अलि बाठो तर पातलो शरीरको हुन्छ भने चाहिँ लेनी एकदमै मोटो शरीरको र मन्दबुद्धिको हुन्छ हैन। मैले के काम गरिरहेको छु भन्ने कुरा गलत काम गर्दाखेरि पनि उनले जानी जानी चाहिँ गलत होस् भन्ने चाहदैनन् हैन, तर बाइ मिस्टेक चाहिँ उनको दिमागले चाहिँ उनको शरीरलाई कन्ट्रोलमा राख्न सक्दैन हैन। त्यसकारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ उनबाट धेरै थुप्रै गल्तीहरू हुन्छन्। त्यो गल्तीहरूको कारणले गर्दाखेरि पनि उनलाई लास्टमा चाहिँ आफ्नै साथी यो जर्जले चाहिँ मार्नुपर्छ। यो मार्नुको पछाडि चाहिँ अब अरूहरूले कुटी कुटी एकदमै दुःख दिएर मार्नुभन्दा एकदमै सजिलो मृत्यु भन्छ हैन। त्यो सजिलो मृत्यु दिनको त्यो दुःखबाट मुक्ति दिनको लागि पनि आफैले उनको चाहिँ हत्या गरिदिन्छन् हैन, गोली हानेर। यिनीहरू दुवैजना गरिब श्रमिक छन् जो अरूको खेतहरूमा काम गरेर आफ्नो जीविकोपार्जन गर्छन् र सपनाहरू यिनीहरूको सपना चाहिँ छुट्टै आफ्नै खेतबारी हुने हैन, घर हुने, त्यसपछि त्यो घर खेतबारीमै काम गरेर आफ्नो जीविकोपार्जन गर्ने भन्ने राम्रो सपना हुन्छ। तर त्यो सपना चाहिँ अन्त एकदमै नमिठो तरिकाले हुन्छ। यसमा यो जो लेनी भन्ने क्यारेक्टर छ, यसलाई चाहिँ नरम चिजहरू त्यो पेट गर्न मसार्न भन्छ नि, त्यस्तो गर्न चाहिँ एकदमै राम्रो हुन्छ। त्यसकारणले मुसा, खरायो यस्तो चिजहरू जो नरम हुन्छन् हैन, रौँहरू भएको भुवावाला यस्ता कुराहरू खिलाउँदै मारेर हैन मार्दिहाल्ने हुन्छन् हैन। तर मैले मारेछु भन्ने उनलाई आफैलाई पनि त्यो फिल हुँदैन। ती कुराहरू चाहिँ यो जर्ज र लेनीको कुराहरू हेर्छौँ हामीले। यसमा थुप्रै अरू क्यारेक्टरहरू पनि छन् हैन, जो बोसकोमा काम गर्छन्, त्यसको बोसको छोरा बुहारी चाहिँ अलि इल नेचरका हुन्छन्। अन्तमा यो बोसकै हैन बुहारी जो कर्लीको वाइफ हुन्छ, जसको नाम चाहिँ हामीले यो नोभेलाभरि पढ्न अथवा देख्न पनि पाउँदैन। अब यो गर्नुको मेन कारण चाहिँ यो अमेरिकामा पनि यो अमेरिकन नोभेल हो र यो अमेरिकन नोभेल त्यतिखेर हैन, जतिखेर यो नोभेल लेखिएको थियो त्यतिखेर चाहिँ महिलालाई त्यति प्राथमिकता दिइँदैन थियो भन्ने कुराहरू यो नोभेलबाट पनि हामीले देख्न सक्छौँ। यो नोभेल नभएर नोभेला हो। नोभेला चाहिँ नोभेलभन्दा अलिकता सर्ट, अलिक थोरै कम्प्लिकेटेड हैन, नोभेलभन्दा अलिक कम्प्लिकेसनमा अलिक कम हुने सजिलो स्टोरी। यसलाई हामीले अलिकता बढायौँ भनेपछि हैन, यो नाटककै फर्म हुन्छ। नाटकभन्दा अलिकता बढाएको जस्तो फर्ममा र नोभेलभन्दा अलि सजिलो हुने भएको कारणले हामीले यसलाई नोभेला भन्छौँ। अब यो दुईवटा स्टोरी हामीले देख्न सक्छौँ यसमा हैन। यसमा जस्तो यो क्यान्डीहरू जो बुढो मान्छेहरू हुन्छन् हैन, स्लिम छ, त्यसपछि अरू थुप्रै क्यारेक्टरहरू पनि छन्, तर सबै क्यारेक्टरहरूको त्यति ठुलो भूमिका छैन। मेन क्यारेक्टरको रूपमा हाम्रो यो नोभेला चाहिँ हाम्रो लेनीकै वरिपरि घुमेको हामीले देख्छौँ।
Or, character sketch. The Lenny is a prominent character in the novella of Mice and Men. Though Lenny is a prominent character in the novella of Mice and Men, he is the character who is the least dynamic. He does not go under any character development throughout the novella and is exactly the same as we encounter him on the beginning of the story. All we know about Lenny is that he is big burly lumberjack who is a bit slow, loves to pet soft animals, has super strength and is devoted to George and his plans about the farm. The first time we see Lenny, he seems to be stroking a dead rat inside his pants pocket, which clarifies that he is a person who loves to pet soft animals and is a bit slow in his mind as he doesn't realize that petting a dead animal is very wrong. He is also very devoted to George and cares about him a lot. In many scenes when Lenny causes trouble, instead of thinking about giving an explanation on why it happened, he is shown to be more concerned about what George might think or say. He is shown quoting on, "George is going to be so mad." So, it just shows that he thinks the world of George. Though Lenny possesses superhuman strength, he is shown to be dependent on George. As in a scene, George is shown to be cutting down a tree and making a pile. Lenny just keeps on standing to the side without doing anything. Lenny is also extremely positive and optimistic as he is the only one who heartily believes that George's vision about the farm will come true. His optimism also pays off as he influences other people into believing on it as well. Steinbeck has made Lenny a very innocent and simple character, and Lenny is charming because of his simple character. We as an audience know from the beginning that Lenny is bound to be doomed but can't do anything about it. We only can wait for something bad or good to happen to him as the story goes on. Lenny is also very innocent to the point he can't defend against the crazy antics of Candy, another migrant worker. But he is also shown to not care that much of anything. He was described as by others as a man having a body of a bear but the behavior of a cute dog.
Our question ma character sketch the Lenny as a prominent character in the novella of Mice and Men भनेर दिएको छ। अब यसमा क्यारेक्टर स्केच हामीले बुझिसकेको छौँ हैन। यो नोभेलाको मुख्य पात्रको रूपमा हामीले लेनीलाई लिन्छौँ हैन। अब लेनीको एकदमै माया लाग्दो क्यारेक्टर छ हैन। नजानी मिस्टेक गर्छ। त लास्टमा गएर त्यो कर्लीको वाइफको हैन उसको पनि उसैले हत्या गरिदिन्छ। उलाई पेट गर्न कुनै नरम चीजहरु मसार्न राम्रो लाग्ने हुन्छ हैन। त्यो कुराहरुको फाइदा चाहिँ त्यो कर्लीको वाइफ जो अलि बदमाश हुन्छिन् हैन, उनले चाहिँ आफ्नो कपाल चाहिँ नरम छ भनेर मसार्न दिन्छिन्, तर उले उसको शरीरमा चाहिँ उसको दिमागको कन्ट्रोल हुँदैन हैन। त्यसकारणले गर्दा अलि जोरले समात्दिएपछि त्यो कर्लीको वाइफ चाहिँ चिच्याउन थाल्छ हैन। अरूले थाहा पायो भने मार्लान् भनेर उसको घाँटी नै मोड्दिन्छ हैन। त्यो मरिसकेपछि चाहिँ उसको पनि अन्तिममा आफ्नै साथी जर्जले चाहिँ जसले चाहिँ उसलाई सानैबाट बचाइराको हुन्छ हैन। जहिलेदेखि भेट्यो तहिलेदेखिबाट बचाइराको हुन्छ। अब यो त्यही साथीले नै उसलाई मार्नुपर्छ हैन। उनीहरुको सपना पनि अधुरै रहन्छ। यो कुराहरु चाहिँ हामीले यो लेनीको क्यारेक्टरको रूपमा हामीले यो कुराहरु राख्न सक्छौं।
6. What is the central idea of the poem, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day? 10. Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day is a beautiful sonnet written by William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is a writer of Elizabethan era who is known by the world for being an amazing writer and dramatist. William Shakespeare begins the poem, sonnet, with the line, Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? He says that he wants to compare his beloved with a summer's day. He thinks that his beloved is so beautiful that he can compare them with a summer's day. He then says that his beloved is even more tempered and lovely than the summer's day. Even though his beloved is more beautiful, he wants to compare them as it does justice to his beloved. According to him, his love for her, his beloved, is more than anything in the world. His love is incomparable to others. He compares his beloved with a season in his poem because in that way, his beloved can be immortal and can be known through years. With his lines, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee, expresses that Shakespeare wants his beloved to be known as long as the man can breathe or the eyes can see. As long as the people read this poem, This poem will give his beloved love and life throughout. He also says that the beauty of his beloved is as a small bud of flower that blooms on summer's day. So, through a lot of ways Shakespeare has stated his love for his beloved. Shakespeare has written this sonnet using some beautiful verses and has made an amazing comparison in it.
6. What is the central idea of the poem Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? भनेर क्वेसन सोधिएको छ. अब यो Shall I compare thee to a summer's day को सेन्ट्रल आइडिया मुख्य भाव चाहिँ के हो भनेर सोधिएको क्वेसन हो. लङ क्वेसन हो, 10 मार्क्सको. यसमा विलियम शेक्सपियरले लेखेको यो सोनेट हो. सोनेट 14 लाइनको कविता हो हैन. अब यसमा राइमिङ प्याटर्न पनि हुन्छ. यो आइम्बिक पेन्टामिटरमा लेखिन्छ विशेष गरेर. यो कवितामा चाहिँ शेक्सपियरले एउटा ब्ल्याक ब्युटी हैन आफ्नो प्रेमिकाको प्रशंसा गरेर लेखेका छन्. अब यसमा प्रकृतिसँग दाँजिएर हैन समर सिजनसँग दाँजिएर अथवा थुप्रै कुराहरू प्रकृतिका थुप्रै कुराहरूसँग आफ्नो प्रेमिकाको वर्णन गरेछन्. अब यसमा यो गर्नुको कारण प्राकृतिक चिजहरू अमर हुन्छन्, कहिले सिद्धिँदैनन् हैन भन्ने कुराहरू छ. यसमा आफ्नो प्रेमिकालाई चाहिँ मान्छेहरूले यो कविता पढुन्जेलसम्म तिमी जीवित छौ, तिमीलाई मृत्युले पनि तिम्रो केही गर्न सक्दैन भनेर डेथलाई पनि च्यालेन्ज गरिएको विषयमा छ. र यो कुराहरू चाहिँ हामीले यो क्वेसनमा चाहिँ इन्क्लुड गर्नुपर्छ.
7. Answer any one of the following questions. 2 times 5 equals 10. A. Why does Shakespeare want to compare his beloved with a season? Give your reasons. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day is composed by William Shakespeare. In this sonnet, he compared his beloved with a season and moreover with natural phenomenon all over the poem. He wants to show just how much better his beloved's beauty is compared to that of summer. Shakespeare works to tear down all positive thoughts of summer so that the reader can recognize just how much he lifts up the image of his beloved. As a result of describing the season's climate, the poet wants readers to see that his beloved has looks that will never change. It is also shows that the love for his beloved is never changing or eternal. Summer remains same in its time that he wants to prove in the verse.
7. Answer any 2 of the following questions. 2 into 5 equals to 10. दुईवटा सर्ट क्वेसन 5 मार्क्सको सोधिन्छ यसमा. यो पोइमबाट दुईवटा सर्ट क्वेसन हो. फर्स्टमा छ Why does Shakespeare want to compare his beloved with a season? Give your reason भनेर सोधेको. अब यसमा सिजनहरू चाहिँ एकदमै इटर्नल हुन्छन् हैन, कहिले ननासिने हुन्छन्. त्यस्तै गरेर उनको प्रेमिका पनि यो कविताको हरफहरूमा उनको चर्चा भइसकेपछि अब उनी पनि अमर भइन् भन्ने कुराहरूलाई जनाउनको लागि यो सिजनहरूसँग चाहिँ कम्पेयर गरिएको हो भनेर हामीले लेख्नुपर्छ.
B. How are the tragic deaths reacted in your society? Remember the one you have witnessed and write the mournful situation there. Home they brought her warrior dead. Death is the permanent, irreversible cessation of all biological functions that sustain a living organism. We cannot escape from death as it is natural phenomenon. We all have to go through it and we cannot escape from it. Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead is a poem based on the expression of the women whose husband died on the war. In this poem we can simply read the pain of the woman who lost her husband. This kind of feeling can only be relatable for those whose nearest person have died. I can really relate too because recently my grandfather died in the car accident. We never imagined that our grandfather will leave very early. That moment was very painful and unforgettable. I even could not see and say goodbye to him. I don't know why the people are careless while driving. He was very caring and loving. He always taught me to be strong and determined in the works. That in every moment with him is unforgettable. He taught me to believe in hard work and the importance of the family. His death is still sorrowful to us as he was the pillar of our family. He has set as the best example of our life. He is the best person I ever encountered, so this is the most heart-touching things for our whole life.
B. How are the tragic death reacted in your society? Remember the one you have witnessed and write the mournful situations there. Home they brought her warrior dead. भन्ने कविताबाट लगिएको यो क्वेसन हो। अब यसमा ट्राजिक डेथहरू होइन, कुनै मान्छेको अल्प आयुमा मृत्यु भयो या हत्या भयो भने तिम्रो सोसाइटीमा कसरी त्यो रियाक्ट गरिन्छ भन्ने कुराहरू छ। यो कुनै त्यस्तो आफूले देखेकै घटनाहरूको वर्णन गर भनेर सोधिएको छ। अब यसमा ट्राजिक डेथहरू संसारभरि नै होइन एकदमै पेनफुल्ली रियाक्ट गरिन्छ, कसैलाई पनि राम्रो लाग्दैन। अब यसमा एकजना आफ्नो हजुरबुवालाई होइन अनएक्सपेक्टेडली एक्सिडेन्टमा गुमाएपछिको एउटा स्टोरी जोडिएको छ।
C. Explain the following lines with reference to the text. So long as man can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Above lines are the lines of the sonnet Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day by William Shakespeare. The sonnet is written by Shakespeare for his beloved. In the above lines, William Shakespeare says that as long the human beings of this world can breathe and as long as their eyes can see, his sonnet will live on, and so will his beloved in his sonnet. As long as the people know how to read and write, his beloved will be provided life through his lines. People will know about his beloved and the love Shakespeare had for her. He also in the same poetry compares his beloved with a summer's day and says that his beloved is even more lovely and beautiful. So, in the above lines, Shakespeare says that his beloved and his love will always be immortal.
She explained the following lines with reference to the text. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. अब यो रेफरेन्स टु द टेक्स्ट भन्ने जो छ यो एउटा एकदमै कम्पलसरी क्वेसन हो। यो छुटाउन चाहिँ मिल्दैन। यसमा यो कम्पलसरी भनेर पनि सोध्न सकिन्छ। यो कविता विलियम शेक्सपियरले लेखेका हुन्। स्याल आई कम्पेयर दी टु अ समर्स डे, सोनेट नम्बर 18 भन्ने छ। अब यसमा यो मान्छेहरूले होइन जबसम्म मान्छेहरूले सास फेर्न सक्छन् या फेरि तिनीहरूको आँखाले कुनै कुरा देख्न सक्छ होइन तबसम्म तिम्रो होइन तिमी जीवित रहन्छौ मेरो यो भर्समा होइन कवितामा छन्दमा भन्ने कुराहरूलाई चाहिँ मृत्युसँग चाहिँ मृत्युलाई नै च्यालेन्ज गरेर राखिएको लाइन हो। यो लाइनको चाहिँ यो लाइनमा के भन्न खोजेको कुराहरू हो त्यो कुराहरू चाहिँ हामीले यसमा एक्सप्लेन गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ।
8. Answer any one of the following questions. 5. A. Summarize the one-act play Chitra in your own words. Chitra is a one-act play written by Rabindranath Tagore. The one-act play is about a warrior named Chitra and her idol Arjuna. Chitra is the princess of Manipur, where she is the next in the line of king. In order to be a great king, she is trained as a boy from a very young age. Chitra is loved by her people as she protects them from harm. One day while traveling through a forest, she comes across Arjuna sleeping in the middle of the road. When she tells him to move, he denies, so in a fit of rage Chitra pokes Arjuna with her sword. Arjuna yelps and stands up with an amused smile in his face. Seeing that face, Chitra falls in love with him. She for the first time in her life feels like a girl. The very next day, Chitra removes all of her man's attire and put on a sari and goes to meet Arjuna. She meets Arjuna and proposes him, but Arjuna denies Chitra by bringing forth the 12 years celibacy he has taken. Heartbroken, Chitra goes away feeling sad. After that day, Chitra visits Madana and Vasanta, the god of love and the god of eternal youth, and tells them her story. Then she requested Madana and Vasanta to grant her a boon of beauty for a day, so she can woo and make Arjuna hers. But instead of just a day, Madana and Vasanta make her beautiful for an entire year. The next day Arjuna sees a beautiful Chitra next to a pond and falls in love immediately. He later that day meets Chitra and both exchange their names as well as admit of liking one another. From that day onwards they both spend every day together. As the days passes by, both of them fall for each other even more. But Chitra is uneasy with the fact that her body isn't her real body. She frequently visits Madana and he reassures that nothing is wrong. One day after a very beautiful eventful night, Chitra regrets her decision and becomes sad. Arjuna the same day asks Chitra to return to his palace and become his bride. Chitra denies Arjuna, stating that the relation that they have right now is more than enough, and hearing that Arjuna is heartbroken. Later, Arjuna comes to find about Chitra through the villagers and wonders what kind of woman Chitra might be. Later, after a year passes, Chitra meets Arjuna in her real body and tells him the truth. She tells him that she is pregnant and she wants to grow her baby to be just like Arjuna. Arjuna, hearing that, is very joyful and says that he will be happy to have Chitra in his life.
8. Answer any one of the following questions. यो 5 मार्क्सको सर्ट क्वेसन हो। यो हाम्रो ड्रामाबाट वन एक्ट प्ले भन्छ। यो वन एक्ट प्लेबाट सोधिएको। यो वन एक्ट प्ले र ड्रामामा खासै ठुलो डिफरेन्स त हुँदैन हैन। यो वन एक्ट प्ले भनेको पछाडि कुनै सिन राखेर एउटै सिनमा यो ड्रामा सकाइन्छ। विशेष गरेर वन एक्ट प्लेमा ड्रामामा चाहिँ त्यो सिनहरू चाहिँ चेन्ज गर्न पनि सकिन्छ। ड्रामाकै नयाँ रूपहरू चाहिँ यो मुभीहरूको स्क्रिप्टको रूपलाई पनि हेरिन्छ हैन। अब यो वन एक्ट प्लेहरूको अवस्थाहरू एकदमै घटिसक्यो हैन। अब यी कुराहरू चाहिँ प्राय जसो संसारभरि नै यो वन एक्ट प्लेको आउटडेटेड फेसनको रूपमा छ भनेर पनि भनिन्छ। तर यो बेस हो हैन, मोडर्न फिल्मको स्क्रिप्टको एउटा बेस हो। त्यसकारणले पनि यो वन एक्ट प्लेहरू इम्पोर्टेन्ट हुन्छन्। अब यसमा हामीलाई दिएको यो चित्रा भन्ने पार्टबाट हो। यो चित्राको चाहिँ समराइज द वन एक्ट प्ले भनेर सोधिएको छ। अब यो चित्रमा विशेष गरेर इन्डियन राइटर रविन्द्रनाथ टेगोरले लेखेको हुन्। हुन त रविन्द्रनाथ टेगोर बङ्गाली हुन् हैन। बङ्गाली भाषामा चाहिँ यिनले बढी लेखेको छन्। हिन्दीमा भन्दा पनि बङ्गाली भाषा र इङ्ग्लिसमा यिनको हामीले साहित्यहरू हेर्न सकिन्छ। हाम्रो नेपालको महाकवि लक्ष्मीप्रसाद देवकोटा जस्तै यिनी पनि भारतीय कवि हुन्, त्यति नै फेमस हुन् इन्डियामा चाहिँ। अब यो चित्रा भन्ने हाम्रो यो वन एक्ट प्लेमा चाहिँ हामीले चित्राको बारेमा हेर्छौँ। चित्रा चाहिँ यो मणिपुर राज्यको चाहिँ राजकुमारी हुन्छन् हैन। अरू छोरा छोरीहरू कोही पनि नभएपछि अब यिनलाई नै त्यो देश सम्हाल्नु पर्ने हुन्छ हैन। त्यो सानैबाट चाहिँ अब देश सम्हाल्नु पर्छ भनेर ट्रेनिङहरू दिइराख्ने भएको भएर अब यो केटाहरूको कपडामा चाहिँ ट्रेनिङ गर्न सजिलो हुन्छ हैन। अब त्यही वेशभूषामा नै चाहिँ ठुलो हुन्जेलसम्म पनि त्यस्तै भइराख्छ हैन। लडाई झगडा गर्ने, हातहरू चाहिँ सारा भएका हैन। यो महिलाको कुनै गुण पनि यिनमा त्यति देखिँदैन हैन। अब त्यो कुराले गर्दाखेरि एकचोटि यिनको भेट यो अर्जुना भन्नेसँग हुन्छ, जो महाभारतको पात्र अर्जुनसँग पनि हामीले कम्पेयर गर्न सक्छौँ। अब यिनी अर्जुन चाहिँ हैन ब्रह्मचारी 12 वर्षको ब्रह्मचारी जीवन जिउनको लागि जङ्गलमा गएको हुन्छन् हैन। त्यहाँ चाहिँ यिनको एकचोटि भेट हुन्छ र त्यसपछि त्यहाँ अर्जुनको जो हाँसो यिनले देख्छिन्, त्यसपछि चाहिँ आफू केटी हो हैन। यो फरक चाहिँ जेन्डरसँग चाहिँ आफूलाई अट्र्याक्सन हुँदो रहेछ भन्ने कुराहरू त्यो फिल गर्छिन्। त्यसपछि अब राजकुमारी भइसकेपछि हैन, केटी भए पनि राजकुमारीमा जो एटिट्युड हुन्छ हैन, जो कन्फिडेन्स हुन्छ, त्यो कन्फिडेन्स लिएर अर्जुनलाई चाहिँ प्रपोज गर्न जान्छन्। अब त्यो अर्जुनलाई प्रपोज गरिसकेपछि उसले चित्रालाई देखेर हैन राम्री हुँदिनन् हैन। त्यसपछि चाहिँ अब आफू त 12 वर्षको यो सेलिबेसीमा छु भनेर रिजेक्ट गरिदिन्छ हैन। अब त्यो रिजेक्ट गरिसकेपछि चित्रालाई चाहिँ साह्रै दुःख लाग्छ कि त्यति सिँगारिएर हैन साडीहरू लगाएर उसलाई प्रपोज गर्दा पनि कस्तो केटा मान्छे भएर पनि रिजेक्ट गरिदिएको हैन, ममा के खराबी रहेछ भनेर उनलाई त्यो फिल हुन्छ हैन। अब आफ्नो रूपको बारेमा उनलाई रियलाइज हुन्छ हैन। त्यो भएपछि यिनले आफ्नो रूप चाहिँ आफू राम्री हुनको लागि चाहिँ मदना र बसन्ताको चाहिँ यिनले तपस्या गर्छिन् हैन। त्यो खुसी भइसकेपछि दुवै भगवानले चाहिँ उनलाई सुन्दर हुने वरदान दिन्छन्। त्यो वरदान पाइसकेपछि अर्जुनालाई चाहिँ लोभ्याउन यिनी सफल हुन्छन् हैन। तर त्यो रमाइलो हैन, अर्जुनसँग त्यो रमाइलो रात बिताइसकेपछि उनलाई चाहिँ आफ्नो त्यो क्रियाकलापसँग चाहिँ एउटा रिग्रेट फिल हुन्छ हैन। त्यसपछि आफूलाई परिवर्तन गरिदिनको लागि यो मदना र बसन्तालाई भन्छन् हैन। तर उनीहरूले 1 वर्षको लागि यो वरदान हो हैन, अब एकै दिनमा त चेन्ज हुँदैन भन्ने कुराहरू गरेर फर्काइदिन्छन्। हो यो 1 वर्षसम्मको यो अर्जुनासँगको उनको रिलेसनमा उनी अन्ततिर प्रेग्नेन्ट पनि हुन्छन् हैन। र 1 वर्ष बितेपछि जब उनको रियल हैन रूप आउँछ उनको सामने, उनी अटोमेटिकली चेन्ज हुन्छन्। त्यसपछि म चित्रा हो भनेर उनलाई चाहिँ आफ्नो परिचय गराउँछिन् हैन। यो अर्जुनलाई पनि चित्रा को होला हैन, एक्लै केटी मान्छेले यत्रो देश धानिरहेको रहेछ, जनताहरू पनि उसकै भरमा पर्दो रहेछन् होइन, सबै दुष्ट शत्रुहरूसँग एक्लै भिड्न पनि सक्ने होइन, फौजको लिड गर्न पनि सक्ने कस्तो हिम्मतवाला रहेछन् भन्ने कुराहरू पनि यिनीहरू चर्चा भइरहेको हुन्छ होइन। पछि अर्जुनले चाहिँ होइन यो चित्रा जो राम्रो रूपमा हुन्छन् त्यतिखेर चाहिँ मसँग बिहे गरेर हाम्रो दरबार जाम भन्दाखेरि यो हाम्रो प्रेम चाहिँ विवाहको लागि होइन होइन, यो जति भएको छ यो नै पर्याप्त छ भनेर रिजेक्ट गरिदिन्छन् होइन चित्राले। त्यसपछि यो कुराले पनि अर्जुनलाई चित्त दुखिरहेको हुन्छ होइन, चित्राको बारेमा चाहिँ बढी ध्यान केन्द्रित गरिरहेको हुन्छ। त्यो कुराहरू चाहिँ यो चित्राले रियल रूपमा आइसकेपछि 1 वर्ष बितेपछि त रियल रूपमा आउनुपर्ने हुन्छ होइन, वरदान सकिन्छ। त्यो वरदान सकेको दिन चाहिँ अर्जुनलाई भन्छन् म चित्रा हो होइन, म मेरो बच्चालाई चाहिँ त जस्तै बनाएर एक दिन तँलाई भेट्न पठाउँछु भनेर भन्छ। तर अब त्यो भइसकेपछि चित्रालाई लागेको हुन्न अर्जुनले आफूलाई एक्सेप्ट गर्छ होला भनेर होइन, तर अर्जुनले चाहिँ अन्तमा मेरो जीवन अब तिमीलाई पाएपछि एकदम पुरा भयो होइन भन्ने कुराहरू राखेर यो नाटकलाई चाहिँ अन्त गराइएको छ।
B. Why is Chitra trained as a boy? Chitra is the princess of Manipur, where she is the next in the line of king. In order to be a great king, she is trained as a boy from a very young age. As she is the only child of the king, as a result it is her responsibility to continue the tradition. She is a very skilled woman, wears men's clothes and guard the kingdom courageously. Chitra is loved by her people as she protects them from harm. Once while traveling through a forest, she comes across Arjuna sleeping in the middle of the road. When she tells him to move, he denies, so in a fit of rage Chitra pokes Arjuna with her sword. Arjuna yelps and stands up with an amused smile in his face. Seeing that face, Chitra falls in love with him. She for the first time in her life feels like a girl. After then, she takes the help of magic from the gods and lures Arjuna trickily. She feels bad at the last to her misdeed and correct herself. The end.
B. Why is Chitra trained as a boy भनेर सोधिएको यो और क्वेसन हो। यसमा अब यिनी मणिपुरको राजकुमारी हुन्छन् होइन, अब राजा रानीको अरू अन्य कुनै सन्तान हुँदैनन्, छोरा पनि हुँदैनन्, छोरी पनि हुँदैन, यिनी एक्लो बच्चा हुन्छन्। अब त्यस कारणले पनि राज्यको जिम्मेवारी यिनीमै आउने हुन्छ नै होइन, अटोमेटिकली परम्परागत सर्दै जान्छ त्यो चाहिँ। अब त्यस कारणले पनि यिनलाई आफ्नो देशलाई बचाउनको लागि, राज्यलाई बचाउनको लागि चाहिँ ट्रेनिङहरू गर्नुपर्ने, बलियो हुनुपर्ने भएको हुन्छ होइन। अब त्यो ट्रेनिङहरू गर्दै जाँदाखेरि केटाको पहिरनमा सजिलो हुने हुन्छ र त्यो पहिरन नै यिनलाई पछि जवान भइसक्दाखेरि पनि त्यही पहिरन नै यिनलाई बढी कम्फोर्टेबल हुने भएको भएर त्यही पहिरनमै यिनी हुने हुन्छन् होइन। त्यस कारणले गर्दाखेरि यिनलाई केटाको जस्तो गरेर ट्रेन गराइन्छ होइन, देश सम्हाल्नको लागि भनेर हामीले आफ्नो आन्सर यसरी राख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ यसमा। Thank you for joining with me in this video lesson, and subscribe my channel to get my upcoming video lessons continuously. Keep suggesting us. See you soon.